Hi everyone, this is Kat. I wanted to pop on here to talk about something that's actually been on my mind for probably a month or so now. That is something that I wanted to come on here and chat about. And just I feel like continues to pop up ever since it really came to me initially as something that I wanted to share. And that's because it's something that tends to really crop up a lot, both in my professional work and also in my personal life. So, just to backtrack a little bit, something that I see all the time, both something that has been my personal experience, but something that comes up with the majority, I would say, of the patients that I work with and the majority of people that I discuss this with in my personal life, is that most people, and I see this especially with women, but I think men as well, that we all grew up, and I don't want to say all, but I'll say the majority of us grew up with the understanding that in order to be strong, we had to be stoic with regard to our emotions. So, meaning that we shouldn't show a lot of emotion. We shouldn't show sadness. We shouldn't show anger. And we also shouldn't show a lot of even the positive emotions, right? We shouldn't be like heavily emotive people in general. So, somebody who could really control and manage their emotions and seem kind of just like neutral was somebody to be emulated, right? So if you were somebody who was stoic, who could kind of hold it together, who kind of like ruled with an iron fist and like just was very firm, that was seen as a sign of strength. That was seen as somebody who had it all together. That was probably considered to be very professional, all very positive, like, right? Somebody who was like that would get a lot of praise and was somebody that we wanted to emulate. So a lot of us grew up with this idea of that, being stoic equals strength, and being emotive, showing emotions, showing sadness, showing anger, showing grief, and maybe even showing a lot of happiness and joy and excitement meant that you were weak because you couldn't control that. You couldn't hold it together. You couldn't be strong and, not show your smile or not show your tears. But what I've learned, both through my own personal journey, by talking with friends and family members, and through my training, my career, working with patients, is that we really rob ourselves of a lot of the experience of life if we're not allowing the expression of emotions, right? If we're trying so hard to hold it together and not express emotions in front of other people, often we end up kind of deadening the experience of the emotions within ourselves, right? It's kind of like that whole idea of if you keep telling yourself a lie, you start to believe it. It's like if you have to work so hard to, prevent yourself from the outward expression of emotions, often you then stop really experiencing them on the inside either. And it goes on both ends of the spectrum. It's not just that we're suppressing and lacking the experience of the negative emotions, we're also doing it on the positive end. So I see that happening with a lot of people, and I've even experienced this myself, where you're trying so hard to not experience and express the negative things, or what has been perceived by society as negative emotions, anger, grief, sadness, etc., that you end up kind of deadening yourself to the happiness, the joy, the being in the present moment and fully experiencing it, right? We shut all that down on both ends, both externally and internally. And it also creates disconnection between people, because if we're not experiencing emotions, then we're not able to connect at that emotional level. And so something I've been working on personally the last few years is trying to reawaken this emotional experience within myself, which means I've had to experience the full gamut, right? Like reconnecting myself with both the positive and the negative sides. And I've also been working on becoming more comfortable with expressing that outward expression of those emotions to other people. And, it's been a process like anything. So it started with being more expressive to the people closest to me, the people that I felt safe with, the people I trusted, felt most comfortable, the people that I felt would react well and be able to hold that, right? And then, gradually as I felt more comfortable and got good reactions, right? Usually we hopefully get a positive reaction from the people that truly love and care about us unconditionally, that don't judge us. And then that gives us a little more confidence to then step a little bit further out into the world. And so slowly, 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 like I said, this has been over many or multiple years at least. I've been able to go a little bit further out into the world with being a little bit more expressive about my experiences, my stories, my emotions. And so most recently, I've luckily established a good relationship at work with my clinic director, who's like my direct supervisor. And as part of that relationship, I've sort of tested the water of being a little bit more open, a little bit more vulnerable about what my home life is like. And it's not like I have this horrible home life. I think I have a home life that looks very similar to most parents that have younger kids. My kids are 6 and 9, so they're elementary age kids. We also share a home with my parents who at times need assistance and help, and we also have to work together, in a family unit. So, I have a certain level of obligation, responsibility, and sometimes pressures that some of my coworkers don't have. Currently, the majority of my coworkers are younger than me. The majority are unmarried and don't have children. And so there have been times more recently at work where I've had to speak up and say, like, hey, I'm not as flexible. I'm not able to do the same things or be as present or as engaged in the ways that some of my other coworkers are because I have XYZ going on. And I would say probably 10 years ago, I wouldn't have felt comfortable saying that because I would have felt like, oh, that's going to make me look like I'm not strong enough, or I'm not a team player, or I'm lazy. Like I would have all these worries and concerns about how that would make me look to my clinic director. But luckily, some of it's age, right? Luckily, or hopefully we gain a little more confidence and self-assurance with age. Some of it's a lot of the personal work that I've done. But luckily I've gotten to a point, and some of it is just the relationship I have with my clinic director and feeling like she's a safe person for me. But I've been able to be a little more open with her over the past 9 months that I've known her about my family situation, my home life, my obligations, and what my boundaries are in terms of my time and my capacity. And what was really interesting is about a month ago, I ran into her in the break room where we all get our coffee, store our lunches, and all of that. And I could just tell something was off. Like, I know her well enough at this point that, she usually puts on a happy face. She's in management. There's a lot of moving pieces for her. She's doing a lot of things, and she's got to kind of keep that happy face to keep everybody else happy and keep things afloat. But I could just tell something was off. So I stopped her and I said, hey, are you okay? And at first she was like, yeah. And then she paused and she said, you know what? She said, Kat, I admire you because you're able to be vulnerable. You're able to be honest about when things aren't great, when you're having a hard time, or when you're struggling, or when you need to make a change or things need to be done differently, and you're open about what's going on in your personal life that may be affecting your bandwidth or your capacity at work. And I really admire and appreciate that because it allows me to be more honest and open about what's going on in my life. And then she proceeded at that point to share with me something really tough that was going on with her and her family that was making her, not feel great that day, that was making her struggle. And she was just not in the same space that she normally is. And so we sat and we chatted for, 10-15 minutes about it. And, at the end of the conversation, she said, thank you. I feel a little better. It helped that I could at least share and be honest. And I really appreciate that. And I appreciate that we have that relationship. And that to me was really striking because as much work as I have done around being more open and being more vulnerable and being okay with that, being at peace with that, I still get nervous and anxious when I share, when I'm open. And there's times that I've walked away from conversations with her where I've been open And I still have that part of me, because we all have different parts, right? I have that part of me that's saying, Kat, you shared too much. You overshared. You're going to look weak. You're going to look lazy. You're going to look like you're not a team player. You're going to look like you're, trying to take the easy way out. You're making excuses. Like all the negative things that we say to ourselves to push ourselves to do things that are not right for us, to do things that are not in alignment with our value systems or our well-being or our goals. All the things that society tells us that we need to do, even though it's not in our best interest. So I still deal with this, but that experience that I had with her was a confirmation that I'm on the right path. And as I continue to follow that path and share with others, it's been pretty beautiful. I mean, I don't disclose a lot to my patients because that's not appropriate in my role. I'm there to support them and guide them and hold space for them. But I have found myself now being a little more open in personal relationships, even with people that are acquaintances. And it's been really lovely because I've seen them open up to me in a way that they may not have felt comfortable if I hadn't gone first, if I hadn't, opened the door, set the stage. And then it's allowed me to support them or maybe even offer resources, because a lot of these people know my profession and they know that I have access to resources, or at least knowledge around resources that I can help provide them. And so, it's helped me serve them better, in, a friendship acquaintance capacity. And it's also built a bond that, who knows, maybe it will turn into, a mutually supportive, beneficial friendship at some point. But anyway, I just wanted to share this because, like I said, that it was interesting to have, have gone through this journey and just have a moment like that, because we don't always have that happen where we have that moment or that experience that really confirms that we're on the right path. And so for me, that was really exciting and encouraging and inspiring. And I just wanted to share that with you all to encourage you that if you are trying to stretch yourself, stretch your boundaries, stretch your comfort zone around vulnerability or anything else, to just keep at it, especially if you feel like this is the right way for you to go, if this feels aligned, then it means it is the right path. And just keep looking out for the signs, because they're there, that you're headed in the right direction. Hope you're doing well, and I hope to see you again back here soon. Take good care.